She doesn't miss you. Until this happens, Old Stoic wisdom. Love is not about possession, it's about appreciation. Die Zrenia. She didn't feel your absence when you left, when you stopped calling, when you backed away, or when you grew distant. She didn't flinch. In her mind, you were still there, still emotionally tied, still waiting, still hoping that eventually she would come around. But here's where most men go wrong. They believe that pulling away means physically disappearing. The truth is, it's not your absence that shakes her. It's your indifference. It starts to hit her when you stop reacting. When you stop pursuing, when your energy no longer revolves around how she feels, that's when things begin to change. You've gone from expressing pain to embodying peace. You're not bitter, you're better. You're not ignoring her to punish her, you're simply living without needing her to complete you. And that's what causes her to stop, to take notice. It's not the silence itself, but the fact that this time you're not coming back. In this video, we'll dive into that pivotal moment, the moment she realizes that what she's truly lost isn't just your attention, but your presence. And for a Stoic man, that's not something he begs to give back. Let's break it down. Number 1. The distraction phase. Right after it all ends, she's not feeling the weight of it yet. Not yet. The silence you left behind hasn't yet seeped into her bones because she hasn't allowed it to. Instead, she fills the emptiness with noise, endless distractions, plans with friends every night to keep her mind occupied, late-night messages with half-interested strangers to keep the illusion of novelty alive, and mindless scrolling through social media feeds. She'll post curated, smiling pictures that scream, "I'm fine," pretending she's moved on, showing the world that she's strong. Maybe she even throws herself into a new workout routine, as if pushing her body harder will somehow ease the ache she won't admit is there. She might even talk to someone new, just enough to feel a spark of something fresh, something distracting. On the surface, it looks like she's moving on, like she's fine, like you never mattered. But don't be fooled. This is the distraction phase, the space between the loss and the eventual realization, the gap where she tries desperately to outrun the discomfort of your absence. Sure, she's acting like she's over it, but deep down, she hasn't even begun to process the weight of what's really gone. You're out of the frame, but far from out of the picture. Your absence is far too rooted, too deeply ingrained, to vanish in the blink of an eye. The way you carried yourself, the quiet dignity with which you left, the way you didn't beg, didn't fight for her attention, didn't create drama, it all stays with her, even if she won't admit it. The truth is this: a man rooted in old Stoic wisdom doesn't rush to be remembered. He doesn't need closure, recognition, or even acknowledgement. He lets silence do its work because he knows, deeply, that some absences take time to resonate. They don't always show up in the way you expect them to. He knows that when you're really rooted in Stoic principles, you understand that silence isn't emptiness. It's powerful. Let her fill the space with distractions. Let her seek comfort in whatever noise she can find. That's her path, not yours. You are not the one responsible for her emotional journey. You are not the one who needs to fix it. A Stoic man, one who understands the value of composure and the strength of an iron mind, doesn't get pulled into the drama of someone else's avoidance. You let her go, but not with anger. You don't cling. You don't chase. You do it with stillness. And let me tell you, that stillness, it's a force to be reckoned with. It doesn't have to shout. It doesn't have to make a scene. It doesn't have to demand recognition. It simply is. It sits quietly, solid as stone. And as the noise fades around her, as the distractions start to lose their power, your absence becomes more profound. It begins to echo. It's the only thing left to fill the silence. Now time, as it always does, will reveal the truth. Eventually, those distractions she clung to so desperately will lose their grip. The night's out, the flurry of half-hearted conversations, the quick thrills, they'll all begin to feel hollow, empty, unsatisfying. The attention, the validation she was seeking from strangers or from her busy life will ring false. It won't give her the comfort she thought it would. And when that moment finally comes, when the noise and the distractions fall away, she'll feel it. It won't be the loss of just another man. It will be the loss of something far more elusive. Your calm, your depth, your presence, the stillness you carried with you, the strength you exuded without needing to prove it. She will realize that what she truly lost wasn't just a man, but someone who didn't need to validate his worth, someone who knew his value without needing her to affirm it. And that, my friend, is the real power of Stoic wisdom. You don't need to chase after her or beg for her to notice. Don't check in. Don't break the silence to see if she's finally coming around. Your worth is not dependent on her recognition. Let life teach her. Let time peel back the layers of distraction she's wrapped herself in. Let her face the emptiness that will inevitably come when the noise dies down, and all that's left is the raw, real feeling of absence. When the distractions finally lose their appeal, your absence won't just echo. It will speak volumes. It will fill the silence with more meaning than any empty words or frantic actions ever could. The key to true power is in this, the stillness, the absence that isn't filled with bitterness or regret, but with quiet strength. That's where your power lies, not in fighting for her attention, not in forcing her to see what you were, but in living your truth without needing anyone else to affirm it. You've already done what you needed to do. Now let the world and her see it in its own time. Number 2, routine without you. It hits her in the smallest ways. It doesn't arrive like a thunderstorm with loud and dramatic force. No, it's more subtle than that. More like a drop of water constantly falling on stone. Over time, that water carves out a groove. It's slow, it's quiet, it's almost invisible, but it's powerful. She reaches for her phone without thinking. It's automatic, like muscle memory. She expects to see your message there. Good morning used to be the first thing she read before even getting out of bed. A small gesture, a simple message. But now, there's nothing. Just an empty screen. No notification. No presence, just space. At first, she may shrug it off. It's fine, she might tell herself. Maybe it's better this way. She distracts herself, scrolls through social media, finds random faces, fills the silence with things that don't know her like you did. But routine, like time itself, reveals truths. The Stoic principle is clear. You can't ignore what's real, no matter how hard you try to bury it. You weren't just someone she texted. You were woven into the rhythm of her day. Your messages, your energy, the way you listened, the way you responded. They weren't small things. They were part of the inner clock she followed, whether she realized it or not. She didn't need to actively think about it. Your presence just was. But now that presence is gone, and something shifts in her. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but it's there. Her days go on, sure, but they feel different, lighter in a way, not freer. No, it's emptier, like something real used to be there, and now it's not. And even if she doesn't admit it, either to herself or to anyone else, she feels it. She feels the absence, not just of you, but of the emotional consistency you brought, the steadiness, the grounded presence that didn't have to fight for attention or validation. That's what she starts to miss. Not the message itself, but the meaning behind it, the energy, the feeling, the quiet reassurance that you were there, whether it was obvious or not. And here's where most men go wrong. They rush back in. They think, I have to remind her of what she's missing. They try to chase her, explain things away, do whatever they can to fill the gap. But not you. Not this time. You don't react. You're not posting things to make her jealous. You're not obsessing over her social media stories, hoping she'll notice your absence. Number. You've simply stepped back, not with anger, not with drama, just with clarity. And that, my friend, is the Stoic path. The old Stoic wisdom is clear. Don't chase what doesn't honor you. Don't waste your energy on something that doesn't serve you. Epictetus once said, we should always be asking ourselves, is this something that is or is not in my control? And that's the truth here. Her feelings, her timing, her realization that something is missing, it's not in your control. But your focus, your direction, your decision to not fill the void, that is yours. Instead of trying to fix the silence, you let it be. You don't fill it with desperate calls or messages. You don't try to explain or justify yourself. You leave the silence to speak for itself. And that, my friend, is where real power lies. It's in the absence. It's in your refusal to chase, your refusal to beg for attention. She may not reach out. She may not say anything. But deep down, she feels it. That absence. The absence of what used to be there. The presence of a man who didn't need to prove himself because he was already grounded in who he was. The absence of peace. That's what she feels. The steadiness, the emotional consistency, the things that had always been there, suddenly aren't. And that is where the shift happens, when her routine starts to feel too quiet, too predictable, without your energy. She may pause. And that pause, that's where the echo of your presence starts to speak louder than anything you could say. Not because you manipulated the situation, not because you played some game, but because you simply were true to yourself. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You didn't diminish your presence in order to get a reaction. And here's the most important part you need to understand. Your absence isn't just noticed. It's felt. Not because you disappeared or gave up, but because you chose not to chase. You chose not to chase after something that didn't honor your presence. That's not bitterness. That's balance. That's strength. The Stoic rules of balance, of emotional consistency, and of focusing on what is in your control have never been clearer. You've chosen your path. Now you stay true to it. You don't chase her, and you don't chase approval. You stand firm, not because you're trying to make her miss you, but because you understand the strength of being present for yourself. Not in a way that forces someone to notice, but in a way that creates an unshakable, quiet strength that cannot be ignored. And that, my friend, is the power of absence. And if you agree with this, drop a comment right now. I am the man who holds the power. Like this video, subscribe for more unshakable wisdom, and remind yourself daily, silence isn't distance, it's discipline. Number 3, the comparison trap. She won't admit it, but here's the truth. She thought she could replace you. Not because she stopped caring, but because she convinced herself that someone else could give her what you gave her. Maybe even more. It's a quiet lie, a comfort we all tell ourselves when we want to move on quickly, when we're afraid of the pain that comes with letting go. She told herself that a new connection would numb the echo of your absence, that the excitement of someone new could cover the calm and safety you brought into her life. So, she sought out someone louder, more available, more eager, a distraction to fill the void, to stop the painful reminder of what she had with you. But what she didn't account for was the slow creep of comparison that would inevitably slip in. She found that even though the new guy responded faster, his words didn't hit the same level. His attention felt more like a demand than a grounding force. His presence didn't bring peace, didn't settle her soul. It overwhelmed her. It made her realize something she didn't want to face. What she had with you was not surface level. It was deep. It was real. And that kind of depth doesn't come around every day. When that realization starts to settle in, it changes things. Deep down, she starts to recognize that what she once had with you wasn't something easily replaced, no matter how much she tried to convince herself otherwise. But here's where the Stoic man steps in. He doesn't play that game. He doesn't rush in to reclaim his space when someone new walks in. He doesn't stalk her on social media, doesn't engage in petty comparisons, and doesn't try to outdo the next guy. He understands something that many men don't. Real value doesn't need to be loud or flashy. It doesn't need to fight for attention. True value speaks quietly, but it speaks powerfully because it is rooted in authenticity. The Stoic knows that time is the ultimate revealer. He doesn't need to rush to prove his worth. Time will do that for him. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The Stoic doesn't chase approval, doesn't crave validation. He is at peace with himself. He knows that when something genuine is lost, time will inevitably speak the truth. It will reveal itself in those quiet, solitary moments when she's lying next to someone else, but the memory of the peace she once had with you keeps creeping in. It will show when she receives compliments that don't resonate with her soul the way your silence once did. The weight of that realization won't come quickly. It won't come immediately, because pride often gets in the way, and pride won't allow her to admit that she made a mistake. But over time, that illusion of replacement will crumble, and it will be clear. The new connection, the louder, more available guy, was just a distraction. You see, the Stoic man doesn't need to prove anything. He knows the truth of the situation. He doesn't need to engage in the drama of comparisons because he understands that time has a way of revealing what's real. When she starts to feel the emptiness of a new relationship, when the excitement starts to feel like a performance, when she looks back at what you gave her and compares it to what she's got now, that's when the truth comes to light. She doesn't miss your face. She misses how you made her feel. She misses the steadiness, the self-respect, the calm presence you brought into her life without even trying. That's the power of the Stoic man. He doesn't flinch when someone else comes in. He knows that most replacements are merely distractions, illusions dressed up as solutions. And when the illusion inevitably breaks, when she realizes she'll never find that same depth with anyone else, it won't just be about missing you. It will be about realizing that she'll never again feel the same peace, the same steadiness, the same quiet strength that you brought into her life. That's when she realizes the truth. You were irreplaceable, not because of what you gave her, but because of who you were. You weren't trying to be anything. You just were. And you chose to remain that way, even after walking away. That's the power of a Stoic man. Epictetus, once again, has the answer. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The Stoic man doesn't seek out drama or engagement in games. He simply knows his worth, and he lives with the certainty that time will reveal everything. And in that revelation, it will not be about missing your face, but about missing the man who stood strong and true, regardless of circumstances. The Stoic wins not by chasing approval or validation, but by mastering himself and remaining steadfast in the face of distractions and challenges. In time, the quiet strength of the Stoic will make it clear that no one else can ever replace the steady, grounded presence you brought. Number 4. The growing realization of the value of emotional independence. At first, she might have been baffled by your calm demeanour, questioning why you were so composed, so seemingly unaffected by the emotional turbulence that everyone around you seemed to succumb to. She could have mistaken your tranquility for emotional detachment, thinking you were indifferent or uninterested in the things that mattered to her. At first glance, your emotional distance might have appeared like a wall, as if you were hiding something, a lack of vulnerability that she couldn't quite understand. Yet over time, as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, something shifted within her perception. She began to realize that you weren't emotionally distant out of coldness, but because you embodied a fundamental principle of the old Stoic wisdom, emotional independence. You weren't waiting for her to validate you, nor were you depending on her reactions to define your happiness. In the midst of a world that thrives on emotional highs and lows, your centeredness seemed like a rare treasure, something she couldn't quite put her finger on, but felt, nonetheless, was magnetic and valuable. You weren't interested in playing games, in seeking her approval, or relying on her for emotional fulfillment. You were grounded in yourself, calm, composed, and self-sufficient in a way that most people could only dream of. You weren't looking to her for confirmation or validation of your worth. In fact, you didn't need her at all to be happy, and that fact made you all the more intriguing. She may have initially seen your calmness as aloofness, or worse, a lack of passion, even accusing you of being emotionally unavailable. But she soon began to realize that your emotional sovereignty was something that few could ever hope to attain. It was the kind of inner peace that comes from understanding Stoic principles, the wisdom of accepting that happiness is within oneself, not dependent on the external world or the reactions of others. She began to see that your calm was not coldness, but strength. You were emotionally independent, not reliant on anyone, including her. You were free, and that freedom became your strength. The Old Stoic wisdom teaches that a person must have an iron mind, a mind that is not easily swayed or disturbed by the emotional chaos that often surrounds us. Your emotional resilience was not something that could be shaken by any storm. You lived your life fully, without being drawn into the ups and downs of other people's dramas or emotions. You didn't try to fix her or control her. Instead, you simply lived, fully present, engaged, and at peace with yourself. It wasn't about striving to change the world or make people bend to your will. It was about embodying a stoic mindset where your happiness was not tied to external forces. She started to see that this peace, this calmness, was the foundation of your strength. The more she experienced life, the more she began to appreciate the power of emotional autonomy. Your quiet strength became a beacon in her life, a rare quality she longed for but didn't know how to cultivate in herself. Over time, she began to realize the value of emotional independence. The more she reflected on your calm demeanor, the more she understood that emotional autonomy wasn't just a luxury. It was essential for a life of peace and balance. In a world where everyone seems to be constantly seeking validation, approval, or external affirmation, you were the one person who seemed immune to the constant pull of others' opinions. You weren't emotionally dependent on anyone, and that was what made you stand out. It wasn't the grand gestures that drew her to you, but the quiet, unshakable strength of your emotional independence. This was the kind of power that people only dream of having, and now she was beginning to see it for herself. She started to wish she could approach the world with the same level of balance and peace that you had. She found herself yearning for the emotional sovereignty that you had achieved, a sense of freedom from the emotional roller coaster that so many others live on. This realization didn't happen overnight, but over time, she began to admire the Stoic principles you had integrated into your life. Your strength wasn't loud or boastful, it was steady, unmovable, and deeply rooted in your understanding that true happiness comes from within. You didn't need anyone to validate your existence, and that independence gave you a kind of magnetic allure. It was a rare quality, one that she couldn't help but admire, and over time, it became clear to her that this was what she truly wanted. Emotional independence, the same rare and powerful trait you had mastered. She began to see that your peace, your emotional resilience, was not something to be frustrated by, but something to be coveted, something to strive for. The calmness you once exhibited that seemed distant to her now looked like the very thing she wanted most in her life. The more time that passed, the more she found herself wishing she had the same iron mind, the same emotional self-sufficiency that you possessed. She realized that emotional autonomy wasn't just a quality, it was the foundation of true strength and inner peace. And it was this realization that made her not only appreciate you more, but also made her start questioning her own emotional dependence on others. The old Stoic wisdom she had dismissed as mere philosophy now rang clear and true in her own life. She began to understand that true peace comes when you stop seeking validation, stop depending on others to fill your emotional needs, and instead turn inward to find the peace and balance that only comes from emotional independence. And this, my friend, is the kind of person who truly captures attention, not through manipulation, control, or grand gestures, but through the quiet strength of an iron mind, grounded in Stoic principles. She began to see that emotional independence was not only rare but also incredibly powerful, something worth aspiring to, something worth loving. And that was when she truly started to miss you. And if you find today's content very interesting, please give me a word of encouragement by commenting "very interesting" in the comments section. That is a huge motivation for us. Thank you. Number 5. The absence of drama and its appeal. In today's world, chaos seems to be the default setting for most relationships. There's drama, emotional upheavals, and unpredictable emotional highs and lows. Many people feel like they need that constant rush, like a roller coaster they're unwilling to get off. But then there's you, the Stoic man. You've lived by a different code, the code of stability, calm, and peace. You refuse to get caught up in the constant storm. You stay grounded. And it is that calmness, that steady, unwavering presence, that she may one day realize she misses most. You see, Stoic principles guide you to understand that life's emotional extremes often lead nowhere but confusion and frustration. The Old Stoic wisdom teaches us to remain unmoved by the external chaos. You must understand that your strength lies not in being swept away by emotions, but in your ability to stay anchored in peace. That's the very thing that drew her to you in the first place. She might not have noticed it at first, but over time it becomes clearer. In a world of constant drama, your lack of it stood out. You didn't indulge in emotional games or petty arguments. You didn't let your emotions dictate your actions. This was a stark contrast to the others around her. There were no wild outbursts, no emotional roller coasters. You weren't an unpredictable storm. You were a steady lighthouse. And that stability, it's priceless. While many are drawn to the high-intensity moments, the heated debates, the emotional confrontations, the adrenaline rush of uncertainty, what you provided was something far more rare. Peace. With you, she didn't need to constantly walk on eggshells, waiting for the next blow-up or emotional manipulation. There were no hidden games, no hidden agendas. You were simple, direct, and, most importantly, stable. As time passes, she starts to realize just how exhausting the constant emotional upheaval is. The drama, the emotional games, it wears you down. The highs are thrilling at first, but they eventually burn out, leaving you with nothing but emotional exhaustion. This is where she starts to crave something different, consistency. And that's when she begins to notice what she had with you. What she misses isn't just your calm demeanor, it's the feeling of peace that your presence brought. You must recognize that true emotional intimacy doesn't come from grand gestures or heated confrontations. It isn't found in moments of dramatic passion. It's found in the quiet moments of simply being, in the absence of conflict, in freedom from emotional chaos. It's in the consistent calm that allows real, deep connection to grow. The Old Stoic taught us that we must remain unshaken by the turbulence around us. This is why, over time, your steadiness becomes so valuable. She starts to crave that stability because it offers something that emotional chaos never can: trust, safety, and peace of mind. These are the foundation of a deep, lasting bond. You don't need to make grand gestures. You don't need to stir the pot or create conflict to feel alive in a relationship. You must understand that the greatest form of emotional intimacy comes not from the highs and lows, but from the steadiness and reliability of being a calm presence. So don't underestimate the power of your quiet strength. The more you embody the Stoic rules of emotional control, the more she will come to see that what she once took for granted is actually a rare gift. Don't try to win her back with drama or games. Let your Stoic principles guide you to simply remain steady. She will remember the stability you offered and crave it once again. Because, in the end, drama doesn't create real connection. Peace does. Number 6. The realization of what true respect looks like. In life, true respect doesn't always look the way we expect. You might have thought the silence meant indifference, but you'd be wrong. Over time, she'll realize that silence was your greatest strength, not a weakness. By pulling back, by stepping away, you were showing her something far more powerful than words: respect. Not the kind that demands attention, not the kind that seeks validation, but the kind that values freedom. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You didn't play the emotional games that so many others do. Instead, you stood firm, respecting her space, allowing her to grow, to reflect, to miss you. And in that space, you gave her the opportunity to understand what truly mattered. As Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, teaches, freedom is the only true possession. You didn't force your presence. You didn't force your influence. You allowed her the freedom to choose, to miss you, to come to her own conclusions. That's respect. That's power. You must understand this. In relationships, respect isn't about compromise at every turn. It's not about always giving in to maintain peace. Sometimes, the greatest act of respect is letting the other person experience their emotions, their decisions, and their consequences without interference. When you gave her space, you didn't abandon her, you empowered her. You gave her the chance to miss you, to see what she stood to lose. It wasn't a sign of weakness, but an embodiment of strength. As Epictetus would say, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. You showed that, by stepping back, you didn't need constant affirmation. You were enough. Your value didn't rely on her reaction or attention. You must grasp this concept deeply. By pulling away, you set the standard for future relationships. When others come with their manipulations and their desperate attempts to control, she will see through it. She will recognize the difference. She'll see that with you, she experienced something no one else could offer, the freedom to grow, to think, to be independent. When she sees how others try to latch on, try to bind her with emotional dependency, she'll remember you, the one who respected her enough to let her be. This is not a respect that can be easily explained or understood at first, but it's the kind that stands the test of time. In today's world, where emotional manipulation is rampant and emotional dependency is often mistaken for love, you must stand apart. You must be the man who shows that real strength doesn't come from constant attention or control. True strength is shown in your ability to stand firm, to allow others to make their own decisions, and to maintain your own sense of autonomy. When you embody this principle, you embody what Stoicism teaches us: emotional independence, respect, and control over oneself. You are the man who doesn't need to chase after anyone's approval. You are the one who commands respect through your actions, not your words. Remember this. Epictetus teaches us that the greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Let others chase. Let others play games. Let others seek approval. You have already won. The space you created wasn't about weakness. It was a masterstroke. You gave her the chance to realize what was truly important. You gave her the chance to understand what respect looks like. And now, when she looks back, she will see that you, in your silence and strength, offered something far more valuable than anything anyone else could give: true emotional independence and mutual respect. Keep your mind on this. Respect is not always loud, but it is always powerful. And in the end, it is your unwavering strength that will be the standard by which she measures all other relationships. Stand firm and let your actions speak louder than words ever could. If you found this insight valuable, like this post, comment your thoughts, and share it with someone who could benefit from this wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep wisdom on relationships. And let's comment to remember, every action you take must come from a place of strength and authenticity. Number 7. The realization of the importance of self-growth. As time passes, something shifts within her, and she starts to understand a powerful truth. You were always evolving on your own, without needing her to be a part of that journey. While many people desperately seek validation and cling to their relationships to define their worth, you stood apart. You were focused, driven, committed to your personal growth, mentally, emotionally, and physically. That, in itself, made you not just different, but magnetic. She begins to see that the man she thought she lost was far more than someone who was there to give her attention or affirmation. He was a man with discipline, purpose, and unwavering ambition. He was a man who had goals, who moved through life with intention, and crucially, who didn't rely on her approval to move forward. This was no ordinary man. He embodied the very essence of Old Stoic wisdom, the Stoic principles that teach us to grow independently, to shape our own mind and soul, and to pursue progress without seeking the validation of others. This realization doesn't just shift her perception, it redefines it entirely. She had been trapped in the fantasy of being with someone, the idea that a relationship is all about merging with another person to feel whole. But now, the depth of her understanding deepens. She begins to admire the strength of a man who does not lose himself in a relationship, a man who keeps forging ahead on his own path. By stepping back, you didn't just show her that you could live without her, you showed her the profound power of maintaining your own identity. The importance of self-growth, of staying committed to your journey, is what truly matters. You didn't sacrifice yourself for the sake of her or the relationship. You continued your evolution quietly but resolutely in the background, and that to her becomes more attractive than any fleeting romance could ever be. Eventually, she realizes that this growth is not just appealing, it's essential. It's not about seeking someone else to fill a void, but about having the strength to live fully, on your own terms, creating your own fulfillment. This type of growth, this iron mind, this stoic strength, is exactly what leads to the deepest form of satisfaction. The Old Stoic wisdom teaches us that happiness isn't dependent on anyone else. It's in your ability to stand alone, to live a life defined not by the whims of others, but by your own unwavering drive and personal development. And when she grasps this, she sees the incredible value in a man who stands on his own, an individual who understands that the deepest connection doesn't come from dependency, but from independence, from pursuing growth and fulfillment, no matter the circumstances. If this message spoke to your heart today, leave a comment about faith. I am a high-value man. Thanks for watching. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Your support really helps out. And if you have any thoughts, feedback, or anything you'd like to discuss about today's topic, feel free to drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you and have a conversation about it. Remember, the key to mastering life is to embrace what's within your control and let go of what's not. Stay wise, stay grounded, and I'll see you in the next video.